The crack of gunfire shattered the morning calm, echoing across the wide Colorado plains. Anna Calloway gripped the reins with trembling hands, urging her two-horse team faster over the uneven ground. The wagon jolted violently, wheels bouncing over ruts as dust filled her lungs. April 1876 was supposed to be the start of a new life, not a desperate flight for survival. 3 riders had appeared at dawn, trailing her across the open range, and every time she looked back they were closer. "Faster," she whispered through dry lips, her voice tight with fear. The horses strained against the harness, foam gathering at their mouths. The morning sun glinted off the simple gold band on her left hand, a cruel reminder of everything she'd lost. 3 weeks ago, she had been a wife with dreams of a future. Now she was a widow, alone, trying to reach her sister in Willow Creek before grief or danger swallowed her whole. "Pull over, miss. We just want to talk," one of the riders shouted. Anna's heart hammered. She knew what happened to women who stopped for men like them on these lonely trails. Her mind raced. 3 against 1, no help for miles. The shotgun beneath her seat was her only hope, but she couldn't reach for it without losing control of the team. The ground ahead sloped downward toward a shallow creek bed. She tugged the reins, trying to guide the horses safely, but the terrain was rough and treacherous. The wagon hit a rut, lurching so hard she was thrown against the seat. A second jolt followed. A hidden boulder caught the right wheel. The world exploded into chaos. The horses screamed. The wagon tilted, then rolled. Wood splintered. Anna was thrown through the air, her body slamming against hard ground before everything went black. When consciousness returned, it came in fragments. The taste of dirt, the throbbing in her temple, the creak of saddle leather, voices, male, close by. "See what you done?" A man sneered. "Could have just stopped nice and easy." Anna's eyes fluttered open. Her vision swam. One of the horses lay still, the other fought wildly against the broken harness. The wrecked wagon lay in pieces a few yards away. She tried to crawl toward the shotgun, but pain shot through her shoulder, freezing her in place. 3 men dismounted, moving closer. The leader, a narrow, pockmarked face under a battered hat, grinned as he approached. "Looks like the lady needs some help," he said, his tone dripping with mock sympathy. Anna's heart pounded so hard it hurt. She braced herself for the worst. Then a new sound cut through the tension, a single horse galloping fast from the west. The men froze, turning toward the noise. A lone rider appeared on the ridge, his figure outlined against the rising sun. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and carried a rifle leveled steady as iron. "That's far enough, gentlemen." The stranger's deep voice rang out, calm but commanding. The leader spat on the ground. "Ain't your business, cowboy. Just a misunderstanding with the lady." 3 armed men chasing a lone woman, the stranger said evenly. "That's everybody's business where I come from." He swung down from his horse in one smooth motion, rifle still aimed. For a tense moment, no one moved. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Anna could see his face now. Sun-browned skin, unshaven jaw, eyes the color of a storm about to break. "You best ride on," he warned, "before this gets unpleasant." The leader hesitated. He studied the stranger's steady aim, then his companion's, then cursed under his breath. "Ain't worth getting shot over," he muttered, remounting. "Probably ain't carrying nothing worth taking anyhow." "Smart decision," the cowboy replied. He didn't lower his rifle until the 3 riders disappeared into the horizon. Only then did he approach Anna, kneeling beside her with quiet concern. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" His voice softened. "Are you hurt?" She tried to sit up, but dizziness swept through her. "My wagon," she whispered weakly. "Everything I own." "Don't worry about that now." He examined the cut on her forehead, his touch gentle despite the calloused hands. "Name's Elijah Walker. I've got a ranch about 3 miles west. Let's get you patched up first, then we'll see what can be saved." Tears stung Anna's eyes. The terror, the loss, the exhaustion. It all broke through at once. "They've been following me since sunrise," she said, her voice trembling. "You're safe now," Elijah said firmly, his gaze meeting hers. "You're not alone anymore." The words struck her deeper than he could have known. He helped her sit up, his arms strong around her shoulders. "Can you stand?" "I think so." Her legs wobbled, but his steady presence kept her upright. "Mrs.," he began gently. "Calloway," she said faintly. "Anna Calloway." His eyes flickered to her wedding band, then back to her face. "Mrs. Calloway, then." "Widow Calloway," she corrected softly. 3 weeks. Something shifted in his expression, a quiet understanding. "I'm sorry for your loss." They gathered what they could from the wreckage. Her trunk had survived, along with a few smaller parcels. The rest was splintered wood and broken memories. Elijah's movements were efficient, practiced. He knew this land and its dangers well. "Where were you headed?" he asked, as he loaded her belongings onto his horse and the surviving wagon mare. "Willow Creek. My sister lives there with her husband. I sold our homestead in Kansas after my husband's accident. There's nothing left for me there." Elijah nodded slowly. "Willow Creek's a 2-day ride. You'll rest at my ranch first. Once you're healed, I'll see you safely there myself." "I couldn't impose," Anna protested weakly. "It's no imposition," he said with quiet authority. "You shouldn't travel alone, not after this." She wanted to argue, but the pain in her shoulder and the exhaustion in her bones left no room for pride. "Thank you, Mr. Walker," she murmured. He helped her mount his chestnut stallion, then led the way west, walking beside her through the golden morning light. Anna watched him as they rode. His calm stride, the sure way he moved through the landscape. He was a man at ease in this wild country, the kind who had earned every line on his weathered face. For the first time since the telegram arrived, she felt something she hadn't dared hope for again. Safety. And maybe, if she let herself believe it, the faintest spark of hope. They reached a rise in the land, and below it stretched a small valley dotted with grazing cattle and a sturdy log cabin beside a winding creek. Smoke curled from its chimney. "Welcome to Clearwater Ranch," Elijah said quietly. "It's not much, but it's home." Anna's breath caught at the sight. "It's beautiful." And for the first time in weeks, she almost smiled. The cabin smelled faintly of cedar and wood smoke, a comforting scent that wrapped around Anna like a blanket. Elijah guided her inside, his hand steady on her elbow as she crossed the threshold. The place was simple but well kept. Handmade furniture, clean floors, a stone fireplace, and a shelf of books that surprised her. For a bachelor rancher, he lived with a kind of quiet order that felt strangely reassuring. "Please, sit," he said, pulling out a sturdy chair by the fire. "Let me take a look at that cut again." Anna hesitated, unused to being fussed over, but the warmth in his tone left no room for argument. She sat as he fetched a basin of water and a clean cloth. His touch was gentle as he cleaned the dried blood from her temple. "It's not too bad," he murmured. "Head wounds bleed more than they ought to." "Thank you, Mr. Walker," she said softly. "Elijah's fine," he replied, offering a small smile. "And I expect I'll be calling you Anna soon enough if you're staying here a few days." She blinked, caught off guard by the casual kindness in his words. "Only until I'm fit to travel," she said, though her voice lacked conviction. "Of course," he said simply. "You'll have your strength back in no time." A young man appeared in the doorway then, carrying a bucket of water and blinking in surprise at the sight of her. He was lanky, red-haired, no more than 18. "Thomas," Elijah said, nodding toward Anna. "This is Mrs. Calloway. She had some trouble on the road. Prepare the spare room for her." "Yes, sir," Thomas said quickly, setting down the bucket. He gave Anna a polite nod. "Ma'am." When the young man had gone, Elijah helped Anna to her feet again. "You'll be more comfortable lying down. Come on, I'll show you the way." Quote, "The spare room was small but neat, with a handmade quilt on the bed and a window overlooking the valley." Anna sat on the edge of the mattress, exhaustion washing over her. "You'll find fresh water there," Elijah said, gesturing to the wash basin. "Rest now. Supper will be ready in an hour." "Thank you," she whispered. He nodded once and left, closing the door softly behind him. Anna washed her face and changed into a fresh dress from her trunk. Her arms ached, her shoulder throbbed, but the pain couldn't drown out the feeling of safety that had begun to take root inside her. When she looked into the small mirror on the wall, she hardly recognized the woman staring back. The widow who had lost everything now looked less like a ghost and more like someone beginning to find her footing again. When she emerged for supper, the table was already set. The smell of venison stew filled the air, and Thomas was ladling portions into bowls. Elijah stood by the hearth, sleeves rolled up, his forearms dusted with flour. "I hope you're hungry," he said. "Thomas caught the deer last week. It turned out fine if I say so myself." "It smells wonderful," Anna replied honestly. As they ate, conversation flowed easily. Thomas asked about Kansas, about the plains and the towns she'd passed through. Anna found herself answering, her voice steadier with each word. It had been weeks since she'd spoken so freely. When she complimented the meal, Elijah's eyes crinkled. "My mother would have rolled in her grave if I couldn't cook proper," he said. "She made sure her sons could fend for themselves before sending us into the world." "You have brothers?" Anna asked gently. "Had," he said after a pause. "Lost one at Shiloh, another to typhoid after the war. Been just me since." Anna lowered her spoon, her chest tightening. "I'm sorry. I know what it is to lose family." For a while, they ate in silence, each lost in thoughts of their own. But the quiet wasn't uncomfortable. It felt like shared understanding, the kind that didn't need words. After the meal, Thomas excused himself to check the horses, leaving Anna and Elijah by the fire. The flames danced, throwing flickering light across the room. "I'm grateful for your kindness," she said finally. "You didn't have to help me." His gaze was steady. "Ma'am, out here. Helping each other is the only reason any of us make it. Besides, I couldn't just ride past." "I suppose not all men are like those on the trail," she said softly. "Not all," he agreed. The fire popped. Outside, the wind whispered through the grass. "You should get some rest," he said, standing. "Thomas and I have to check the fences in the morning. There's always work to do after a storm." Anna smiled faintly. "I can help. I'm not helpless, Mr. Walker." He gave a small laugh. "Didn't figure you were." When she went to her room that night, she lay awake for a long time, listening to the night sounds, the lowing of cattle, the creak of wood, the steady rush of the nearby creek. For the first time since Jacob's death, she felt safe enough to close her eyes and let sleep come. The next morning dawned bright and cool. Elijah and Thomas were already outside when Anna stepped onto the porch, her shawl drawn tightly around her shoulders. She watched them work, the easy rhythm between man and boy, the quiet efficiency of ranch life. When Elijah noticed her, he tipped his hat. "Morning, Mrs. Calloway. Hope you slept better than the horses did. Something spooked them in the night." "I slept well, thank you," she said. "Can I make breakfast?" His brow lifted slightly, then he nodded. "If you're sure you're up for it." "I am," she said. An hour later, the smell of biscuits and coffee filled the cabin. Thomas grinned over his plate. "Best breakfast I've had since I come here, ma'am." "Careful, son," Elijah teased. "You'll make me look bad." Anna laughed quietly, a sound that startled her with how natural it felt. By the third day, she had fallen into a rhythm, cooking, tidying, sewing, and even helping in the garden behind the cabin. Elijah worked from dawn till dusk, but he always made time to share supper with her and Thomas, and sometimes afterward they'd sit by the fire while he read aloud from one of his books. His voice was low and steady, the kind of sound that made a person feel anchored. One evening, as a storm gathered over the mountains, Elijah closed the book and said, "Looks like we'll get some weather tonight. We'd better secure the barn." "Can I help?" Anna asked. He shook his head. "No need. You stay inside and keep the lamps filled. The wind out there'll cut right through you." The rain came hard that night. Wind howled around the cabin, and lightning flashed through the windows. When a deafening crack of thunder shook the walls, Anna flinched and wrapped her shawl tighter. Elijah returned, soaked to the bone, and set a lantern on the table. "Old Oak came down by the corral," he said. "We'll fix it in the morning." He poured 2 small glasses of whiskey from a dusty bottle. "For the nerves," he said with a half smile, offering her one. She hesitated, then accepted, The drink burned her throat but warmed her from the inside out. "Thank you," she murmured. They sat in silence for a while, watching the flames. The storm raged outside, but inside, the warmth between them grew. "How long have you lived here?" she asked finally. 8 years, he said. "Came west after the war with nothing but this horse and a hammer. Figured I'd rather build something than spend my life remembering what was lost." Anna looked into the fire, understanding more than she could say. "It's a fine place," she said softly. He studied her face for a long moment. It wasn't, until now. The words hung between them, quiet but powerful. Outside, the storm thundered on. But in that small cabin, something new was taking root. Something fragile, uncertain, but real. The morning after the storm dawned gray and heavy with mist. The ranch yard was littered with fallen branches and scattered debris. Elijah and Thomas were already outside when Anna stepped onto the porch, her skirts brushing damp wood. The air was fresh and cold, carrying the clean scent of rain-soaked earth. "Could have been worse," Elijah said, glancing up from where he hammered a broken fence rail back into place. "We'll have this mended by sundown." Anna rolled up her sleeves without hesitation. "Show me where to start." Elijah opened his mouth to protest, then thought better of it. "All right," he said with a small smile. "Just mind your footing." For hours they worked side by side, the rhythm of labor almost comforting. Anna's hands blistered, her arms ached, but it felt good. Honest work that reminded her she was still alive. Every so often she caught Elijah watching her, something unreadable in his eyes, and each time it sent a flutter through her chest she couldn't explain. By sundown, the worst of the damage was repaired. They ate a simple supper of bread and beans, too tired for much talk. Thomas turned in early, leaving Anna and Elijah alone again by the fire. "You did good work today," he said quietly. She smiled faintly. "You make a fine foreman." He chuckled low in his throat. "I'll take that as a compliment." Quote. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It felt charged, fragile, as if both were afraid that speaking too soon might break whatever had been building between them. The next morning, Elijah saddled his horse. "I'll need to ride into Willow Creek," he told her. "There's business with the cattle buyers and a few supplies we can't do without." Anna nodded, though something inside her tightened at the thought of him leaving. "Be careful," she said. He met her gaze, and something passed between them that neither could name. "Always," he promised. Then he was gone, the sound of hoofbeats fading into the distance. The day stretched endlessly. Anna threw herself into chores. Laundry, sweeping, mending. Anything to keep her thoughts from drifting toward the empty horizon. But when night fell and Elijah still hadn't returned, worry settled heavy in her chest. Thomas tried to reassure her. "He's probably stayed the night in town. Maybe the weather slowed him." Anna nodded, but unease gnawed at her. She didn't sleep. Near midnight, distant hoofbeats broke the silence. She rushed to the window, heart racing, but the rider who appeared wasn't Elijah. It was a young man she didn't recognize, mud-splattered and breathless. "Thomas Harper!" he shouted as he dismounted. "From Clearwater Ranch?" Thomas burst out of the cabin, lantern in hand. "That's me! Name's Wesley. I came from Willow Creek. There's been trouble." Anna stepped into the doorway, the cold night wind cutting through her shawl. "What kind of trouble?" Wesley's eyes flicked to her, then back to Thomas. "Road agents hit the town this afternoon. Tried to rob the bank. Mr. Walker got caught in the crossfire." Anna's knees went weak. "Is he?" "He's alive," Wesley said quickly. "Took a bullet in the shoulder. Another grazed his side. Doc Peterson's tending him now at the Hughes place. Said he'll pull through if he rests proper." "I'm going to him," Anna said without hesitation. Thomas nodded, already heading toward the barn. "I'll hitch the wagon." Wesley hesitated, his voice gentler now. "He told me to find you, ma'am. Said to tell you he meant what he said. You're not alone anymore." Tears blurred her vision. "Then we'd better not keep him waiting." They rode through the night, the wheels of the wagon crunching over wet earth. The first light of dawn revealed Willow Creek nestled between low hills, smoke rising from a few chimneys. Wesley led them straight to the general store with a painted sign that read, Hughes Mercantile. The door swung open before they could knock. A woman stood there, chestnut hair pinned neatly back, her face filled with relief. "Anna!" she cried, pulling her into a fierce embrace. "Thank heavens! Mr. Walker told us everything. We feared the worst." Anna clung to her sister, her voice breaking. "He's here?" Margaret nodded. "Upstairs. He's sleeping now." The room smelled of liniment and medicine. Elijah lay pale against white pillows, his right arm bandaged tightly, his face drawn but peaceful. Edward Hughes, Margaret's husband, sat by the bed and rose when Anna entered. "Mrs. Calloway," he said kindly. "The doctor says he'll recover thanks to that thick skull of his." Anna sank into the chair beside the bed. "Thank you. I'll take care of him now." When they left her alone, she reached for Elijah's hand, startled by how warm it felt beneath her fingers. "You foolish man," she whispered. "Always saving someone." His eyelids fluttered. "Anna?" His voice was weak but clear. "You came." "Of course I came," she said softly, brushing damp hair from his forehead. "You promised I wasn't alone, remember? I couldn't let you be alone either." A faint smile touched his lips. "Fair enough." Over the next 2 days, Anna never left his side. The fever came and went, and once, in the depths of delirium, he whispered another woman's name. Elizabeth, the girl he'd loved and lost long ago. The pang in Anna's chest surprised her, but she understood. Grief left its marks on everyone. By the 3rd morning, his fever broke. When he woke again, his gaze was clearer. "You stayed," he said simply. "I told you I would." He studied her face for a long moment, something unreadable in his eyes. "When I thought I might not make it, I kept thinking of you," he said quietly. "Of that day on the trail, of how you looked at me when I said you weren't alone." Anna felt her throat tighten. "You shouldn't be talking like that yet. You need rest." "Rest can wait," he murmured. "There's something I need to ask." She waited, heart pounding. "When I'm healed," he said slowly, "and you've had time to decide what you truly want, would you consider coming back to Clearwater with me? Not as a guest this time, but as a partner, as family." Her breath caught. "I know it's too soon," he continued, his voice raw with honesty. "You've lost much. I'd never ask you to forget him. I only ask if there's room left for something new." Anna's answer came without hesitation. "When you found me, Elijah, I was certain life had ended for me. But you reminded me it hadn't. You gave me back hope." "And yes," she whispered, her voice trembling, "there's room." Relief flickered across his features like sunlight through clouds. "Then I reckon I'm the luckiest man alive." Quote. Months later, as autumn colored the Colorado hills gold, Anna Calloway became Anna Walker in a small ceremony beneath the same oak tree that had survived the storm. Margaret and Edward stood beside them, along with Thomas, now grown taller and proud as any son. When Elijah slipped the new gold ring onto her finger, he smiled and said softly, "I promise you'll never face another storm alone." "And I promise to face everyone with you," Anna replied. The crowd cheered, and the wind carried their laughter across the wide valley. Years later, neighbors would tell their children the story of how a lone widow was rescued from a wagon wreck by a cowboy with sky-blue eyes, and how together they built a home from courage, kindness, and 7 simple words that changed both their lives forever. You're not alone anymore.